Hello and welcome back. I'm Mr. Luis, and in today's lesson we're going to explore a super important part of psychological research, data and data analysis. When psychologists do research, they collect data, lots of it. But how do they make sense of all those numbers or descriptions? That's exactly what we're going to find out. Let's break it all down one step at a time. Psychologists, like all scientists, often produce numerical results from their research. These numbers are called raw data. Raw data on its own doesn't tell us much. It needs to be simplified and organized, usually through mathematics. We use things like graphs, averages, and charts to help interpret what the data actually means. This process is called data analysis. There are two main types of data in psychology, quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative data is all about numbers. For example, a person's pulse rate, their score on a memory test, or how many times they said thank you during an experiment. It's measurable and often recorded as totals or frequencies. Because it's based on numbers, it's often considered objective and easy to analyze. On the other hand, qualitative data is all about descriptions. This includes open-ended responses from interviews, self-reports, or case studies. It helps us understand the quality of a person's experience or emotions. To compare both, quantitative data equals numbers, easy to compare but sometimes limited. Qualitative data equals words and descriptions, rich in detail but sometimes harder to interpret. Descriptive statistics help us summarize and describe data. Instead of showing every single result, we simplify the data to make it easier to interpret. A central tendency is a number that represents the typical or average score in a set of data. There are three types. Mode, the score that appears most often in a data set. For example, if 10 students say psychology is their favorite subject, and fewer students say maths or English, then psychology is the mode. Median, the middle value in a list of numbers arranged from smallest to largest. If there are two middle numbers, you add them and divide by 2. Mean, the traditional average. You add up all the scores and divide by how many there are. The mean takes into account every score, but can be affected by outliers. Measures of spread tell us how varied or consistent the data is. Two key terms to know here are range and standard deviation. Range, the simplest form of spread. You subtract the smallest score from the largest and then add 1. For example, if the scores go from 4 to 10, the range is 7. Standard deviation, this tells us how much each score differs from the mean. A low standard deviation means the scores are close together. A high standard deviation means the scores are more spread out and varied. Let's now look at how data can be shown visually. This helps us interpret findings more quickly. Bar charts, used for data in separate categories. There should be gaps between the bars. The IV goes on the x-axis and the DV goes on the y-axis. Histograms, used for continuous data like age or time. The bars touch each other and the x-axis shows a range, not separate categories. Scatter graphs, used for correlational studies. Each dot shows the score of one participant on two variables. But remember, correlation is not causation. Let's recap. We collect quantitative data when we want numbers and qualitative data when we want detailed descriptions. We use descriptive statistics to summarize that data. We calculate central tendency using the mode, median, and mean. We assess variation with measures like range and standard deviation. Finally, we present this information using graphs like bar charts, histograms, and scatter plots to make patterns easier to see. These tools help psychologists interpret behavior, test hypotheses, and draw meaningful conclusions. Understanding data is key to being a great psychology student and, more importantly, a great thinker. That's it for today's lesson. I hope this helped you understand how psychologists collect, organize, and make sense of data. Thanks for watching, and as always, this is Mr. Luis wishing you good luck with your studies. See you in the next video.